general, the UK is not the warmest of climates, and overall the average sea temperatures range from about 6 to 10 degrees in the winter to about 15 to 18 degrees in the summer, depending on the location and yearly variations. Getting wet and cold can quickly ruin a trip, and for the kayak angler who wants to fish all year round, or most of the year, the right clothing is very important for comfort and safety. I've received several requests to make a video on kayak fishing clothing, and rather than just talk about the clothing I wear, I went to meet Andrew, the manager from Cornwall Canoes, who are part of the Canoe Shops group, retailers of kayaks, canoes and equipment, with outlets around the country. Andrew has far more knowledge and experience of what clothing is available than I do, and agreed to guide us through the options available. Okay, Andrew, from my experience of kayak fishing, if you go out and you get wet and then you get cold, it's not very pleasant. And I understand that most kayak anglers these days that want to fish all year round or for most of the year are tending to go for dry suits because A, they're designed to keep you dry, and also they can go some way, not all the way, to keeping you warm. So what sort of price range are we looking for a decent dry suit?
For a decent spec dry suit, you're looking to start anywhere from about 450 all the way up to about 650 really, all between that sort of range. Again, a kayak angler will probably be more inclined to go towards a touring based dry suit. Main differences really are you'll have your touring spec top half, those sort of core features. So you have a storm hood, you're going to have, it's just going to be better cut, and it's going to be more comfortable. The types of seals they use are different as opposed to like a standard dry suit. They'll stick more towards a neoprene sort of smooth skin style. Same with the neck seal. If you're out sitting there at anchor for a good 4 to 6 hours, you want to be comfortable. More traditional style latex seals. Whitewater paddlers and surf paddlers will still favourite them, but they're starting to phase out a bit more now. They provide a good seal, but you'll find after a good 4 to 6 hours that they do become a bit uncomfortable and they do irritate some people. So the neoprene seal provides just as good a seal and is just a lot more comfortable. And what you'll find with between 400 and 650 pounds of dry suit is it'll be nice and breathable. Something like the Typhoon suits, they're all quad ply layers, all nice and breathable. And again, you want to edge a bit more towards the touring suits.
Okay, so basically what you're saying is it's important to where you're kayaking, whether you're doing white water or you're doing sea, and therefore you've got to get a dry suit that's really suitable for the ocean.
Yeah, that's it.
You know, that it's going to cope with ocean conditions rather than freshwater conditions. Is that what
yeah. I mean, I myself, I do a fair amount of whitewater and surf, but I also do a bit of kayak fishing as well. So I will have, I've got a palm suit personally, but I'll have a general kayaking dry suit. So mine uses a guide skin steel, similar to this, but you have latex cuffs, and it's just nice and lightweight and suited for the river. Doesn't say I can't use it for kayak fishing. I've been out on a few trips and I had to use it just because of the conditions, but I'll find I will be a bit uncomfortable. I'll be there after a few hours, I'll be there pulling my neck, just adjusting it, the cuff so it's more comfortable. Again, if I get caught out in conditions, I'll end up having to wear a hat over the storm hood. So it's definitely a decent advantage to go for a touring specific suit.
Okay, so that's what they're called, touring.
Yeah,
for sea. All right, so you've got a couple there. So let's have a look. Can we go through? Can we get one off
sure.
and go through from the hood, you know, down to the feet, and just to see what these things are?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one that everybody will generally be familiarised with is the Typhoon PS220. It's quite a common suit. Again, you've got your basic storm hood to start with. Use your neoprene neck seal. Again, it makes use of neoprene, like smooth skin wrist seals as well.
Yeah, let's
so
just go into that.
So you'll find that inside, it's the highest grade of like the cut of neoprene. So it'll be a smooth inside for a nice, decent, comfortable seal. But the thing with these neoprene seals, unlike latex, if you can find a set, when you put them on, they don't bunch up. They're not tight. They're not uncomfortable. So they're a lot more comfortable for paddling and definitely more suited towards sea. What you'll find is a bit more storage areas on a dry suit as opposed to a standard suit. So you'll have various pockets, Again, I know some of them will be covered when you're wearing your PFD, but they do still come in handy. Anywhere from your VHF to just a safety whistle.
I was going to ask you actually about extra safety facilities on these, apart from the fact of keeping you dry and going some way to keep you warm. They come with safety things like whistles and that as well.
Yeah, that's it. So you'll have your whistles anyway. And storage-wise, again, you always want to be able to keep the core safety equipment on your person. You don't want to store it on your boat, because if you and your boat separate as such, you want all the safety gear on your person, like your whistles, your VHF, anything. I mean, I even carry like a small first aid kit on me, so you can put it. You can spread the load. You don't have to have it all in your PFD. You might have your lures and that all taking up space, so you can use the storage on the PS220s and other touring suits to accommodate for that. Again, you will still have a twin waist. This is most prominent on kayaking based suits. A standard, like, cheaper grade dry suit will be probably a bit more designed for sailing, and it won't have this twin waist. Again, this is used for a couple of reasons.
When you say twin waist, can you just...
Yep, so what you have is...
This is if it's, a complete beginner who doesn't know...
So you'll have this fold over waisted section.
Okay.
Now this core use is a bit more for sitting paddlers, so in an enclosed cockpit where you'll have your spray deck underneath, and then that's folded back over, so it's to make a better seal. But at the same time, it acts a bit more like a jacket, and it's just a bit more comfortable. The next thing you want to probably look at is entry.
Yeah.
So what you'll find on a standard dry suit, and again on the PS220, is you've got a standard BDM shoulder entry zip.
Okay, we'll come in on that.
So again, this is the more traditional design. Again, they are a tight zip, but they are designed to keep the water out. And what you'll find is your entry through the shoulder. With any sort of decent spec dry suit, you'll have a pair of bibs inside, braces. So that's the bit that's going to keep the bottom half of the suit up and in the right position, so it doesn't just sag down and become uncomfortable again. Again, a lot of the suits now and the newer designs coming out are moving away from this a bit more. One of the downsides to this, especially if you're going to go out kayak fish on your own, is getting it on. You can do the zip up on your own, but it is a bit of a faff, and it does take a bit of a contortionist to do it. It's ideal if you've got a mate with you who can just go up and do the zip, but isn't always ideal. So they're now moving towards, again, this is the newer version. This is the PS330. Similar sort of design, other than a different colour. Similar sort of specs again, but the difference under this twin waist is you've got waist entry. Now this sits it doesn't sit exactly on your waist, it sits more in your chest area, so when you're actually sat down it doesn't dig in. But what this allows you to do is put the bottom half of the suit on, put your braces on, and then lift the top half of the suit over.
That's much easier, isn't it?
It's just a lot more convenient.
Yeah.
You can do the zip on your own, it's out of the way.
Yeah.
And what it actually does as well is, because you haven't got this big zip on the back, when it's actually up and when you're actually paddling, it feels more like you're wearing a cag. It doesn't feel like you're wearing a dry suit. You can't feel a zip on your shoulders when you're paddling. It's just a lot more comfortable and it's just a lot better.
To me, that's a fantastic improvement.
Yeah. So with the PS330, it was all the same sort of features as everybody liked in the 220. They just improved on it further. Again, with something like this as well, a bit geared up towards touring as well. If you're going out in more worse conditions and you want to stay a bit warm, you've got this storm fleece as such. Now this is all removable, but this has your storm hood incorporated, but it's all fleece lined, so you can keep yourself out of the elements.
That's brilliant. Now, you know what it's like when you're out kayak fishing for 6 to 8 hours and you get the call of nature.
Yeah. So
are they all now coming with standard as relief zip?
All the ones we stock come as standard with a release zip. Again,
let's have a look at that.
Same sort of quality. So you'll have, I mean, this one's a T-zip, but they're all in the same position. Again, you might find in comparison with a cheaper grade suit, which is a bit more geared up for sailing, the entry zip goes from your shoulder to your waist, and you won't have a relief zip because they're designed for sailing where, in a lot of cases, you're on the sailing boat. They're not designed for when you're out in the water, sat in your kayak off the side of your boat, or halfway down the river and portage in just to go to the toilet. So yeah, literally the majority of every dry suit within the 450 to 650 price mark, the decent mid-range suit will all come with it.
Okay. Now we talked about keeping dry when you're actually on the kayak and you're out fishing, the protection that it's going to give you, and go some way to giving you warmth. We talk about other ways where we can get warmth as well in cold weather. But the worst case scenario, you find yourself, you've gone over and you can't do a self-rescue. How much can these things protect you from the cold? Is there some sort of, I don't know, level of protection that they can protect you for so long in cold water? I mean, obviously there's a lot more protection than without one, but
yeah, definitely.
Because they're not just designed for keeping you dry on a kayak, they're designed as a safety feature, a very important safety feature should you find yourself in the water.
Yeah.
So
I mean, they are designed exactly for that sort of situation. Again, the core purpose of the dry suit is to keep you dry.
yeah,
Again, with the advantage of the types of seals it uses, can be a big impact on keeping you warm. Again, what you'll find with more basic suits is they'll use similar sort of seals, but they'll be of a cheaper grade, and they might not provide as much of a dry seal as what they can. And then the technology, I mean, Typhoon, Palm, all the ones that sort of your core dry suit manufacturers, they will spend a lot of money in the development of research of materials. It's cheap to make a material waterproof. What's the expensive part is making it breathable, and the technology behind that is what is going to keep you safe at the end of the day. But again, it's the thing that's going to keep you dry. It's not going to keep you warm.
okay, that's good. That's good for people to know that they need extra clothing.
That's it.
Yeah.
You really want to focus just as much on your underclothing. That's the stuff that's going to keep you warm. And it doesn't. I mean, there's a number of different phases you can do for that.
Okay, that's brilliant, Andrew. Thanks very much for that. But what alternatives are there to a dry suit?
So
If people don't want a one-piece suit, are there alternatives?
yeah, definitely. Again, what you'll find is, I know there's some paddlers out there that will use their dry suit all year round. I personally, I've tried it and I didn't get on with it. Being in a dry suit on a lake, coaching in the middle of July, it gets very hot, and a lot of the time you end up dunking your head in the water just to keep cool. So in an ideal world, you'd have this for your harsher conditions in the winter, and then you would go into your summer stuff, and you'd have different stuff. Now, understand, not everybody has the means to have different clothing for different conditions, so the alternative is to go for a two-piece suit. So you separate, you don't go for a dry suit, you separate into your top half, your cag, and then your bottom, which is either anything from a bib to a dry trouser.
Have you got an example of a bib?
Yeah, definitely.
Oh,
So,
yeah, we got one here.
One of the key examples is something like a palm iron bib. I mean, this is really your top end for where you want to go for bibs. They are really a brilliant bit of kit. So you have your normal features, your dry trousers. You still have your BDM relief zip as what you'd find on your dry suit, just because you've got the top layer in. General your standard dry suit features. Obviously, the key thing, you've still got your dry fabric socks. So what you find a lot of the time is you want to keep your bottom half warm, and that's the best way to do it. And what you'll find, the advantage with going for a bib is there's more of an overlap between that and your top half. So ultimately it provides a bit of a better seal. And what you'll find as well is, because it's unlike a dry trouser, all the adjustment supports at the top, obviously on your top half. So you've got less adjustment around your waist, so it's a bit more comfortable. Again, something like the palm iron bibs, they use this nice breathable meshing on the back. So it's still designed to be nice and breathable.
And I see there's this obviously is designed to fit fairly tight around your chest, and
yeah,
this to tighten up around you just above your waist area.
That's it. You'll find these with the more expensive ones, they will be a much better cut. They'll be they're basically paddler cut. They're all articulated. So it's going to be a comfortable, nice bit. It's not going to be slack, and that's what you'll find the difference between a more expensive bib and a cheaper bib. I mean, something like the bib, like the iron bibs, are about 220 quid, but they are well worth it. A cheaper grade of bib, you'll have something like Palm also do a traverse bib. Now, still have similar sort of features. You don't have the release zip, and you don't have as nice a waist. They are still a standard bib and brace. You don't have the fabric socks, you just have neoprene cuffs. Now, they still provide a decent seal. I've had dry suits which use these as opposed to fabric socks, and they still provide a good seal, But the thing you want to identify is it leaves your feet out in the elements. And again, if you're side saddling on your kayak, wire anchor, you're going to get cold pretty quickly. And again, what you'll notice as well, as opposed to something like the iron bib, they aren't as tight a cut. So there will be slack. They are just a standard bib. They're just not as nice in comparison, but they do different ones to suit the budget. That's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that that would be, if we ever do get really hot weather, that something like that, particularly the iron bib, is be more suitable. Would be good for the summer, wouldn't it? Because you can wear, yeah. But I should imagine, going back to these. I should imagine. I mean, we don't always get really hot days. With the one piece, if it was a hot day, and you just wore virtually nothing underneath, you could you still get away, unless it was really hot.
I've got away with it before, especially down in Cornwall.
Yeah.
We ran it on days of summer where it was just as bad as in the autumn.
Yeah.
But yeah, what you find is you adjust your layering to suit. In the winter, you can have like a full union suit. In the summer, I've used my dry suit with just a t-shirt and boardies underneath. Not the specific way of doing it, but it worked and it was usable, definitely.
Okay, great.
But the same with the bibs.
Yeah.
What you can do as well, what they allow you to do, is adjust your top half for the conditions. So you've still got your bottom dry part, which is the key bit, and that's the bit that's going to most likely going to get wet when you're out paddling. But it allows you to adjust your top half. You can wear a lighter, more summer-specific cag. You don't have to wear a cag. You can wear like a neo skin top. The possibilities are endless, really, but it just allows you to do it.
Right, so the person who goes down the road of the two-piece suit rather than the one-piece suit has obviously got to get a suitable cag, and I should imagine it's the same as the dry suit. There's different types of cags. There's cags for whitewater. There's cags for touring, as you call it,
Definitely.
sea. So we've got some cags here. So what would be a suitable cag to protect you with your bib at sea?
Yeah. So as you can see, there's quite a range you can go for. Start anywhere from about 30 to 40 quid all the way up to 200-300 quid. And the good thing about it, there are clear differences, so you can see where the price difference is coming from. If you're on a budget or you're just starting out, you might just want to go for just a basic spray top. You'll have something like basic like this. All manufacturers will do it. I mean, this is a Yak one, for example, and it is just a basic spray top. There's no real decent seals, and it's just a basic cuff top. It's just purely to keep the wind chill off, not designed to keep it dry. The next step up is around your £70 mark, and you have certain options like this. So instead of just being like a single layer, you'll find it'll be a twin layer system, so it'll be a little bit more breathable. It's just the next step up. But where the key difference is your quality of your seals. It just goes up the next step. Something like example like the Palm Vector, you have a handy little pocket, but your seals are a bit nicer. The next start to jump up, and then these are even good to just use as even in any conditions, to be honest. But you will expect to get a bit of water in, just because you haven't got the dry cuffs. However, in a similar sort of price mark, you do have something from Yak, which I thought was quite good for the price point. Normally, you don't see a decent like wrist seal for this sort of price mark, whereas with something like the Yak ones, they do have a neoprene smooth skin cuff, so you will keep your arms dry to an extent, but you still have basic waist and neck seals.
Have we got one here that would have a cag that would have a similar for the two-piece top as the one-piece dry suit? So in other words, it's going to protect you if you. It's a good thing to wear in the winter.
Yeah, definitely. So you've got your really your top end stuff. I mean, probably one of the best examples to look at. Obviously, Yak do the Apollo, which is one of their top end touring cags. But one of the top end touring cags from Palm is the Bora. Again, this is their XP3 layering system. You can look at Palm's layering system, but that's really the top of their mark for their materials. So it's going to be nice and breathable, but it's going to be the best one to go for. Again, you'll have the similar features which you'll recognise from the dry suits, where you've got your twin waist, just to overlap between your two pieces, so it's going to be a little bit drier. Advantage with this though is what you find between like the cheaper grades and the top end stuff is they'll use like a latex coating, so this sticks to your lower piece, so it's just going to provide a bit more of a better seal. Got your usual pockets again, but the key features where they got to is you have your proper dry wrist seal, so with the paddling cags, they are still using latex, but you'll probably find at some point they will move to the neoprene smooth skin. Now the core difference between, I mean, this would be the best one to go for, but in this sort of range. But the core difference between something like this and a general white water paddling cag is this top half. So this is very similar to, again, what we had on the touring dry suits, basically a normal jacket style neck seal. You've still got your storm hood, you've got your fleece line collar to help you keep yourself out of the elements, but you haven't. It's not designed to have a full dry seal. This is designed for comfort when you're out doing a long nose paddling. You're not planning on going in the water. It will protect you when you go in, if worst case scenario you do go in, but you're not planning on rolling all day long. So it's more focused around comfort than dry seal, but that's what a lot of people want to go for. What you'll find with a normal like paddler sort of specific top is this is a bit more for whitewater and surf. The neck seal is totally different. So this uses latex. It's designed for dry seal. When you're going down a grade 3 or grade 4 river, you want as dry seal as possible, just because you've got water going in your face every second.
Sure.
And if you do roll, or if you're doing any sort of whitewater safety skills, you're going to want to stay more dry.
Yeah. Okay.
There's nothing stopping you using this for kite fishing, but it won't be as comfortable.
Okay, Andrew, that's fantastic. Really good information there, and hopefully that's helpful for people who may be looking into getting a dry suit or a two-piece dry suit, immersion suit. So what we do now is we'll look at the different types of underclothing that you would recommend to wear. When we talked about dry suits, you mentioned that they're designed to keep you dry, but they're not necessarily also designed to keep you warm in the cold weather. So what options have we got? Let's say we'll start with winter when it's cold, to keep us warm as well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, one of the most common things to use, a bit more based towards a dry suit, is your full union suit. It's just a one-piece suit that you'll wear underneath, and this is the thing that's going to keep you warm. For example, this is an IR union suit, so it's uses their thick skin material. It's nice and ridiculously warm. But again, there's some things you want to identify that are better over other ones. There are loads of different union suits out there. You can get them from really cheap, from about 15-20 quid, all the way up to stuff like this. Palm doing equivalent, it'd be like 80-90 pounds. Difference is really, I mean, the main one I'd focus on is entry. With a union suit, you stretch out and you're going through the top, and then you're just wearing the suit, so there's nothing that can be irritating. Whereas with a cheaper grade union suit, you'll find a lot of the time, like even if some dry suit manufacturer will give away a union suit with it, you'll find you'll have an entry zip, fine for sailing and stuff like that. But what I always found using them when paddling is the zip used to really irritate me, and the problem is because it's under the dry suit, you can't do anything about it. So that's the main difference. Ideal for dry suits, you can use them in a two-piece suit, but not ideal. Probably one of the best things to do is use a two-piece thermal. Now, when it's in your winter conditions, you want to use something like this. I mean, this is Palm's Indus thermals and the boating trousers, and this is all merino wool. This is lovely and ridiculously warm. As soon as you put it on, you will feel warm. The good thing about it is it doesn't retain water, so if you go in and worst case you get wet, it's not going to hold the water.
So the other thing about water is it's not just getting wet, it's the fact that when you're paddling, you sweat.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah. A dry suit can be as breathable as it can be, but again, if when you do sweat when you're paddling, you don't want your thermals to feel damp just because of it. And what you'll find with this is it does counteract that quite well. And again, two-piece suit, I find they're cut a bit longer than a normal thermal, like a difference, say, between skiing thermals, for example, just because you've got a bit more of an overlap, so you don't have a problem with them lifting up when you're paddling. But the advantage of using a two-piece suit is you can use them all year round as well. I know you'll layer down in the summer months, but with a two-piece suit it allows you to do it. With a union suit, you're either wearing it or you're not. With a two-piece, you can still keep your nice warmest merino wool thermal base, because your bottom half, when you're paddling, especially when I sit on, it's going to get wet, and that's the one you're going to want to keep warm. But you may want to couple it with a lighter thermal at the top. So you generally go for something like a rash vest. You can go for something like this, like the Palm Tunders, peak to a fleece-lined thermal rashy, and then that's just another core layer. And those are the sort of the best options to go for when it comes to thermals.
Okay, so really, even the ones that are more designed for the winter, they're also pretty good for spring and early autumn, and and into the summer if it's not too hot. You can still wear
Definitely.
you can still wear these.
Definitely, I've used my core thermals all year round. I don't necessarily have a summer and winter set, and I've never really had any issues with that. They do counteract the conditions quite well.
Okay, fantastic. Right, so that's the body sorted. What about socks? Because what I find, I suffer from cold feet.
Yeah.
Particularly when you're on a kayak. All right, if you're paddling, you're moving, but when you're sitting there fishing at anchor for 6 to 8 hours, those feet tend to be in a upright, fairly stationary position, and I find my feet really suffer. So, anything we've got here that could help with that?
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, one of the main things we stock particularly are the NRS Hydrokin socks. Similar sort of material, doesn't retain water, but a really nice thermal extra. Where you're going to want to use these under your boots to provide an additional layer. Again, it's one of those things to bear in mind of what you're using as well. If you're using the iron bibs or a dry suit, you'll have your fabric inner linings, so you can wear these underneath or over. It doesn't really matter too much. But if you're wearing, say, a cheaper grade of bib, for example, where your feet are exposed, that's where they're going to really be affected. So wearing something like a pair of hydrogen socks is really going to help keep you warm. Again, the thing to bear in mind is heat can escape mainly through your head, your hands and your feet. So those are the things you want to cover to keep yourself warm. And again, with kayak fishing, it is a little bit harder to do that, especially for the hands. So with your feet, use something like this. That's really going to help. And again, with your head, there's a number of different ways of doing it. I mean, with palm, or just generally, you can get something like a school cap, which is just an insulating top layer, and it's just fleece lined on the inside. Again, doesn't hold water, and there's just another additional layer.
Okay, great. So what we'll do now, we're going to have a look at the gloves that the options of gloves that people might want to wear.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, we've got a few gloves there, Andrew. If you just want to go through one or two, and just to advise people if they do want to wear gloves, what options are available.
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, the best way to see it, I mean, there's loads of different gloves out there. We'll really stick to like 2 or 3 types just to make it a bit easier. You'll have your basic glove, which is about 15, 16 quid. I mean, I'll take down our crew gloves, for example. Nice lightweight, paddler specific glove. You've got a smooth skin lining on the outside, so it makes a decent seal on your wrist. But just nice and lightweight, and just another thermal layer again, just to stop heat escaping and just keeping you warm. Fine for paddling again. You'll then go up to around sort of the £20 to £25 mark, which is, I mean, one of the best models to look at something like the palm throttle gloves. Now these are a multi-sport glove again. You can use them for sailing, kite fishing, whatever you want. But they're just nice and lightweight, bit more articulated cut for paddling, and just nice hard wearing gloves, but nice lightweight as well. Then you go into your top end gloves, which is something like the NRS Mavericks. Now these are about £40 to £45, but they are an excellent glove. So they all use, it's all liquid seamed, so it's all nice and watertight. But the material itself is excellent. It's really grippy. If you have issues, I mean, what you find a lot of the time is people won't necessarily get on with gloves because they don't necessarily get the feel of the paddle. And you find the Maverick glove really comes around on its own with that. It provides a really decent grip, and you can paddle really well with them. But again, you've got a decent cuff, as again it's smooth skin lined, it's all liquid seams, and that's probably one of the best paddling gloves you'll get for. You won't get much better than that. Now, a bit more orientated towards kite fishing, gloves probably aren't the best option. You'll find a lot of people will use them on the paddle out to the mark, but when you're set up fishing, you don't want to have gloves. They're just going to get in the way. So you'll find some people either take them off, or you can get angling specific gloves, i.e. fingerless gloves, or angling specific ones where you've got a bit more grip on your inner thumb as well.
Right, that's brilliant. So we looked at dry suits now, we've looked at alternatives to dry suits, we've looked at the underclothing, gloves and hats, but now we need to buy some boots. So what we'll do now, Andrew, is have a look at the different options you've got for boots.
Yeah, definitely.
Looking at footwear now, Andrew, to go with the dry suit? I see there's different types. You got short ones and a long one there. So should we have a look at what the differences actually are?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, we'll start from sort of basic and work our way up. Bottom of the mark, really, you have around like your 20 to 30 pound sort of boot, and that's for an example. We use a palm rock boot. Now, this is a basic sort of neoprene shoe, so to speak, but more for paddling, where you've got a decent sort of sole. General Velcro strap adjustment over the front, just to keep it nice and tight on your ankle and stop it just moving about. Over in comparison with like just a standard wetsuit shoe. And yeah, just a good all-round little boot. It's basically a 3mm neoprene shoe, so it provides a decent amount of warmth over it as well. Your next step up is something like your palm descenders. Now, when you first look at them, they're a similar sort of design, but they are a much better boot in comparison. Now, these are up around like your £40–50 price range, but you've got a much thicker sole, so it's just a lot more better. If you've got a particularly difficult launch point you go from, you don't want to feel the rocks when you're walking along, then these are the better sole to go for. Uses a 4mm neoprene in comparison to something like the rock. And another difference is it's nice and fleece lined, kind of like the pilot school caps. And it's a nice thick sole. They're a brilliant, comfortable boot. I've used a set for quite a while, and I thought they were even more comfortable than some £100 boots. So it just shows you don't have to spend and buy the absolute top end to get a decent boot. Again, you've got Velcro straps either side of your ankle just to keep it a bit tighter again. Anything up from that, you go really onto a full-on boot, so something like the Palm Gradients. Now, where this really goes onto its own, where it is a full-on boot, lace up, you've got a Vibram sole, really designed and suited into its own for like whitewater paddlers when they're portaging, or sea kayakers when they've got a particularly difficult launching point. So some kayak anglers will use it when they have got a difficult launching point to go from, and good footwear is the best thing to go for, but not necessarily go out high all the time. Good thing to note as well is you'll have decent amount of ankle support with this as well. And then, so your final option is going for like a full-on boot. Now, it does come down to personal preference whether you go for a boot like this or just a standard wetsuit shoe or boot. Difference being with this is obviously it covers more of your leg, so it's another thermal layer to start with. Obviously Velcro over, just to keep them nice and tight. A little bit of ankle support, and again uses smooth skin at the top to provide a decent sort of seal on the top as well. Now, the good thing about this additional length is you can use this with your dry suit seal at the base or your bib to overlap and make a better seal again. So when you're launching, you're trying to get a little bit less water in and keep yourself a bit drier when you're paddling out. Especially again if you're side saddling as well on your boat, keep a little bit dry as well. But it does come down to personal preference which one you use.
And what's the price range? I don't know if you mentioned. You may have already mentioned that, but
people got rock boots are about £20 to £30. Descenders anywhere. I mean, we'll quote retails from it, about £40 to £50. Gradient boots are up around anywhere from 75 to 80, 90 pounds, and then your boundary boots again are in the sort of 60 to 70 range.
Okay, that's fantastic. As far as I'm concerned, whether you've got a dry suit or not, or wear the right clothing or not, one of the most important things when you go out kayak fishing is to wear a PFD, otherwise known as a buoyancy aid. But when you go out on a boat or out on a yacht, people tend to wear life jackets rather than PFD. So why is that? What's the difference between wearing a life jacket or a PFD when it comes to kayaking and kayak fishing?
Yeah, I mean, there are quite a few differences, but the best thing to do is probably put one side by side and compare the two. We only really stock life jackets more for junior paddlers, so we'll use this as an example. But this isn't a full adult spec life jacket. The main differences to outline really between a life jacket and a buoyancy aid. With a life jacket, the majority of the buoyancy is on the front, and obviously you'll have this neck sort of style collar. It's all solely designed around the fact that if you do get knocked unconscious and you go in the water, it's going to keep your head upright. The disadvantages with it, it's designed so when you actually it's designed to be used when you're actually stood up. So when you're actually wearing it, it'll probably come down all the way to your waist. So if you think about it, when you're paddling, you're going to be sat down. It's going to go up over your neck and your shoulders, and it's not going to sit correctly. And they're also bulky, so they're going to be very restrictive, and they're quite they will be difficult to paddle in. Whereas with a buoyancy aid, noticeably shorter. So when you do actually wear one, they probably sit roughly around where your belly button goes. So when you're actually sat down, they sit in the correct position, and they're designed to be less restrictive for paddling. Another key difference really is, obviously with life jackets you can also get the inflatable type. When they're actually deployed, they are very bulky at the front. If you imagine yourself trying to re-enter your kayak after you've went in, they will be very difficult to get back on your boat. Whereas with the majority of PFDs or buoyancy aids, they're designed to be quite less restrictive at the front. They're less bulky, so they're going to be a lot easier to re-entry with. Another thing to bear in mind as well is actually wearing them with the clothing you've already got. Obviously with buoyancy aids you have two different types. You either have, well, the main two we'll focus on, you'll either have zip entry, where you can enter your waist, or you have a pullover vest type which won't have a zip at all. For general paddling gear and just generally like kags, a pullover is fine, but the thing to bear in mind is if you're using a dry suit where you've got your BDM zip over on your shoulders, they're very difficult to get over the zip, so you'll find a type of zip entry PFD a lot easier to get on.
Now the price range for buoyancy aids, PFDs, what sort of price range are we looking at?
For the ones you're going to be looking at in terms of general sea touring and kayak fishing, it can be anywhere from about £30, £40 all the way up to £150, £160 in that sort of price range. And
the differences between the lower end to the higher end?
Definitely quite a few. So we'll start off, best thing to do is start off at the bottom and work way up.
Okay.
So what you'll get really at the base end is your standard buoyancy aid between the £30 and £50 mark, but there are quite a few differences between that. The main two examples we'll use are both from Kayak, and that's the Clister and the Blaze. The Blaze is about the £35 mark. Difference really between that and the Clister is the quality materials it uses. It is a cheaper grade material, you can feel the difference, but the core difference is the bit of the type of foam they use. What they do use is layers of ether foam. It's quite hard to see on a camera, but if you squeeze it together you may notice it's all layers. Whereas with a Kayak Clister, it's a solid bit of ether foam. So it's a bit more expensive, that's why they use it with the cheaper grade stuff. But the core difference is the layers of ether foam can rub together over a period of time. We're talking over a number of years, but it will degrade quicker, it loses buoyancy in comparison to using solid foam. And again, the adjustment is the difference really. With this you've just got your standard belt and shoulder adjustment, whereas on the Clister you've also got waist adjustment as well. So you can get a bit of a better fit.
Okay.
So these are just your general sort of rec style buoyancy aids. They're perfect for beginners to start out with, but they don't have all the core features you may want from a buoyancy aid. They just do the sole purpose of being a buoyancy aid. Moving up the scale, you go to about the £80 or £90 mark. There's a few different examples, but in this case we'll use the NRS vest. So it's still your standard sort of buoyancy aid, but you've got a few more of your features you will want, particularly for kayak fishing. Additional storage, where you're going to be able to store all your tackle, any safety bits of gear like your knives, whistle. You've got areas where you can fit your VHF. And again, these accessory points really come in handy. You can fit Guardian style nav lights to them. So you see people that carry big strobe lights, you can get small ones that just clip onto these. So all down in terms of safety. Obviously you've got all your reflective gear. But what you find on something like the Sea Vest is the back's slightly different to a normal PFD. The majority of the buoyancy is in the top as opposed to all the way through, and what that is designed to do is designed to reduce snagging on your backrest really. So you'll see some anglers that have really comfy seats. A lot of them are going into deck chair styles now, so it does help. Again, you'll notice you've got a lot more adjustments, so you can get a much better, tight, comfortable fit. Really from that you go up into your top end. So right at the top you've got something like the Palm Kaikoura, really at the top of the end, and if you want pretty much everything that you would need, then this is the sort of thing you'll go for. Similar sort of features again with the sea vest, where you've got a decent amount of storage. You've got more with a kite core. You've got multiple accessory clips where you can fit your stuff like your nav lights. Again, with storing your VHS, the pockets are designed with a twin zip, so you can trap your antenna in. Now, the problem you used to get with earlier buoyancy aids is you had a little hole where you could put the antenna out. Problem was, it was very awkward to take the VHF in and out of your buoyancy aid. So having it trapped in between the two zips is a much better option. Still got all your normal visibility. This even comes with your safety whistle standard. Again, these come in handy where you've got little clips inside, so you can fit, like I always have my safety knife tethered, so you ain't gonna worry about losing anything like that. Again, adjustment wise, they're all, when they come up to this, they're all sort of 4D cut, so they're cut to and designed so that when you put them on, they are nice and comfortable and sit correctly. What you'll have is a decent amount of adjustment again, so you can get a really good fit. And what the Kayak also uses is this mesh lining on the inside. Again, similar to what we had earlier with the ion bibs and breathability, they just help to vent a bit more, and you don't get as hot and sweaty with this than what you would with a more basic one. At the back as well, you've got this sort of rear storage area for, like, either use it for a camel bladder. If you don't have something like that for a water pack, you can also use it for, I mean, I've used sort of mine for a survival bag, so it's just additional storage as well. Again, you've got your same visibility on the back as well, which is key. And this sort of strap you can use for a strobe light as well, for storing in the back. What you also have as well is similar to what they had on their earlier, the stuff we talked about earlier with the Kags. They have this sort of anti-ride-up coating. So when this is all adjusted up, it's going to nice and stick to around your waist area, so it's not going to ride up as what a standard PFD could do.
Well, thanks very much for that, Andrew. Really appreciate that. Some really, really useful information there for those people maybe just starting out in kayak fishing, or those that maybe want to upgrade their clothing. But if the people out there have got any further questions, is it okay for them to contact you?
Yeah, by all means, get in contact with us. I believe you can put the contact details in the description, but yeah, by all means, give us a call, drop us an email. We can help you with anything you need. Again, if you're not local to us and you didn't want to pop in, we're part of the Canoe Shops group. We have about 8 stores over the UK and Ireland, so have a look on the internet, find your nearest store, and get in contact with our members of staff, and they'll be able to help you just the same as well.
Many thanks for that, appreciate it.
No problem at all.
Well, some really useful information there about the different types of kayak clothing available, and as Andrew said, if you need any further information, I'll put Cornwall Canoes contact details in the description, or if you need any more information, you can contact via the comments. So once again, I hope you found that useful, and many, many thanks for watching.